The rain wasn't simply falling over Manhattan that night. It was punishing the streets hard. Sideways sheets that slapped the sidewalks and turned every headlight into smeared ribbons of white. Inside the Harbor Light Diner on West Houston, Elena Reyes dragged a damp rag across the last stretch of counter and tried not to think about how her calves throbbed after 14 hours on her feet. The wall clock above the pie case clicked past AM. The diner was almost empty, just a single customer hunched in a booth and the low hum of the fridge keeping her company. A gust hit the front door. The open sign clacked against the glass. Elena glanced up and saw a child outside. A small figure curled beneath the narrow awning, trying to hide from the storm. Lighting split the sky and the world snapped into focus. A girl, maybe 9 or 10, shivering so hard her shoulders rattled. A pale lavender party dress clung to her skin. One sparkly flat was on her foot. The other was gone. Mud streaked her knees. Tears streaked her face. Elena didn't think. She unlocked the door and stepped out into the rain. The cold hit her like a slap. "Hey," she called, keeping her hands visible. "You can't stay out here. You're going to freeze." The girl flinched, eyes wide and to alert. She tried to stand, cried out, and buckled. Elena lunged forward, slid an arm behind her shoulders, and lifted her before she hit the sidewalk. The girl clung to her neck like she was afraid Elena might vanish. "It's okay," Elena murmured. "I've got you." She carried the child inside. The bell chimed bright and cheerful, absurd against the storm. Frank, the owner, hurried out from the back with towels before Elena could even ask. "Back booth," Elena said. "Warm spot." They settled the girl near the heater vent. Elena grabbed her own old wool coat from the staff hook, dark green, frayed at the cuffs, the only keepsake she still had from Mrs. O'Leary, her foster mother, and wrapped it around the child on top of a blanket. Then she made hot chocolate the way Mrs. O'Leary taught her. Extra powder, stirred until glossy, topped with too many marshmallows. "Drink slow," Elena said. "Let it work." The girl's hands shook, but she sipped. Color crept back into her face. Elena knelt and checked her injuries, scraped knees, a raw patch on her shin, and a thin cut along the side of her bare foot. Elena cleaned it with the first aid kit and wrapped it with gauze. "What's your name?" Elena asked. The girl swallowed. "Mia." "Okay, Mia. You're safe here." Mia's eyes flicked to the windows, to the street beyond the rain. "No," she whispered. Not safe if Elena lowered her voice. "Who are you running from?" Mia's small hand shot out and grabbed Elena's wrist with surprising strength. "Please, don't call the police." Elena froze. "Why not? They can help you." Mia shook her head fiercely, tears spilling again. "You don't understand. My dad is." "No. If there's a report, people will see it. They'll trace it. They'll find me." Elena's gaze dropped to Mia's necklace, real gold. A pale stone set clean and expensive. Even soaked, the dress was high quality. This wasn't a lost kid from the neighborhood. All right, Elena decided. No police, but I have to call your dad. He needs to know you're alive. Can you give me his number? Relief hit Mia so fast her shoulders sagged. She nodded. "I memorized it." Elena pulled her old phone from her apron. Cracked screen. Cheap case. She typed the digits Mia whispered like they were a code. She hit call. The line answered immediately. No ring, no delay. "Speak," a man's voice said. Low, controlled, dangerous without volume. Elena swallowed. "My name is Elena Reyes. I work at the Harbor Light Diner on West Houston. Your daughter Mia, she's here with me." Silent, heavy enough to feel. Then the man spoke again, and the control cracked just enough for fear to show through. "Mia," he said, like a prayer. "Is she hurt?" Elena looked at the child bundled in wool and blanket, hot chocolate steaming between her hands. "She's safe," Elena said softly. Cold and scared. Scrapes on her knees, small cut on her foot. "I cleaned it." She's drinking hot chocolate with marshmallows a breath on the other end like someone being pulled back from the edge. "Tell her Papa is coming," the man said, voice rough. "Stay on the line. Do not hang up." Elena switched to speaker and leaned close to Mia. "Your dad is coming," she told her. He said, "Papa's on the way." For the first time, something other than panic rose in Mia's eyes. Hope, the kind only a parent can bring. Mia's voice came out in small fragments as she warmed. "I was at my friend's party," she whispered. "Papa sent my guard, Nico. I wanted to be normal. I slipped out the service door. Then a black car followed me. Then another. I ran. My phone fell. I lost my shoe. Then it started raining, and I couldn't see." Elena's stomach tightened. "You did the right thing," she said. "You ran toward light. Outside." Headlights knifed through the downpour. Not one set, several. 3 black SUVs swept to the curb and stopped with frightening precision, blocking the street like a wall. Doors opened. Men in black suits stepped out, moving with quiet, practiced coordination. Two took positions at the diner entrance. Others fanned out, scanning the street, hands near hidden weapon. Then the middle SUV opened. A tall man stepped out, rain pouring over him like it had no right to touch him. Broad shoulders, dark hair streaked with silver at the temples, a faint scar near his brow. Eyes so dark they looked almost black. He didn't run. He didn't need to. His stride was measured, counting down the seconds between him and his daughter. The bell chimed again when he entered. The diner shrank around him. His gaze swept the room, then locked on the back booth. "Mia," he said, voice breaking on the name. Mia launched out of the booth like a tiny bullet. The wool coat slipped to the floor. Bare feet slapped tile. "Papa." He dropped to one knee and caught her, arms closing around her like he could rebuild the world with sheer force. Mia sobbed into his neck, and the man, this terrifying, powerful man, trembled as he held her. He lifted her face, wiped her tears, scanned her injuries. Something cold flashed in his eyes, anger aimed at whoever caused this. Then Mia blurted, "I'm sorry. I didn't listen. I wanted to be like other kids." His jaw tightened. He pulled her back into his arms. "We will talk later," he murmured. "Nothing matters right now but you being here." Only then did he lift his head and look at Elena. Not a quick glance. A full assessment. Wet hair, faded uniform, worn shoes, rough hands. Elena braced for contempt. It didn't come. His eyes held recognition, steady and unsettling. He stood, Mia resting on his shoulder, and stepped toward Elena. "You are Elena," he said. Elena nodded, throat dry. He paused, then said, in English, "Thank you." "I just did what anyone would." Elena started. "No," he said quietly. "Not everyone would." He extended his free hand. Elena hesitated, instinct screaming that this handshake was a doorway. Then she reached out. Her fingers met his palm, and a jolt of heat shot up her arm, physical, immediate. Her breath caught. His gaze sharpened as if he felt it too. For one suspended moment, everything else vanished. Mia shifted, sleepy, and the bubble broke. "We must go," the man said, voice rougher. "She needs rest." Mia lifted her head and whispered, "Goodbye, Elena." "Thank you for the coat." "And the marshmallows?" Elena forced a smile. "Goodbye, Mia." The man's eyes held Elena one last time, like a promise he didn't say out loud. Then he stepped into the rain. The convoy swallowed him. Engines roared. The street emptied. Elena stood in the diner, hand tingling, heart acting like it didn't belong to her. Then she noticed it. Her wool coat, Mrs. O'Leary's coat, was gone. Mia had still been wearing it when her father carried her out. Elena stared at the empty hook and felt a strange certainty. She'd see it again. She'd see them again, and that certainty scared her more than the storm. The next 2 days passed like a blur. Elena worked, smiled, poured coffee, pretended he hadn't stood in the same room as a man who arrived with an army. Every time the bell chimed, her heart jumped. On the second day, a hospital envelope waited in her mailbox. Another notice, another deadline. The remaining balance from Mrs. O'Leary's final bills still hovering like a weight Elena couldn't lift. On the third day, Elena decided to forget. She repeated it like a spell. Her world was small and hard. His world was power and danger. They had collided by accident. Accidents don't return. Then an engine purred outside the diner, smooth, controlled. Elena looked up. A single black car had pulled to the curb. The driver's door opened, and the same man stepped out alone. He walked in, the bell chiming. Today, he wore dark slacks and a charcoal shirt with sleeves rolled to his forearm. No rain on him now. He looked less like a storm and more like a man. In his hands was Elena's wool coat, folded neatly. Beside it, a small brown paper box tied with simple string. He set the coat down carefully on the counter. She would not let go of it. He said quietly, 2 days. Elena's fingers hovered, then touched the wool like she needed proof it was real. It was clean. It smelled faintly of lavender. Mia said it made her feel safe. He added, "I promised her I would return it myself." Elena swallowed. "Thank you." He placed the box beside the coat. "This is for you." "I can't." Elena began. "Open it," he said. Not harsh, almost careful. "If you don't want it after, I won't insist." Elena untied the string and lifted the lid. Inside, leather gloves, soft brown, lined and warm, practical, thoughtful, the kind meant for cracked hands and cold walks home. "How did you know?" Elena whispered. "I saw," he said simply. "That night, your hands were freezing." Elena blinked hard. No one noticed things like that about her. He glanced around the diner, then slid into the booth by the window like he belonged there. "May I order coffee?" he asked, plain as any customer. The absurdity cracked something in Elena, and she laughed softly. "Black?" she asked automatically. He nodded. She brought the coffee over. and he pointed to the seat across from him. "Sit," he said. "If you're not busy." The diner was empty. Frank was in the kitchen. Elena slid into the booth, posture straight, unsure what rules existed. "You have no family," he said, more statement than question. Elena's throat tightened. "I have Frank," she said, then added, quieter, "and I had my foster mother. She's gone." A quiet passed between them. "I understand," he said. Those two words landed different coming from him. Elena believed them. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Again. Elena watched the vibration like a reminder of everything he was. He pulled the phone out, glanced once, then turned it off and set it face down. Then he looked at Elena and said, "Tell me about you." Elena didn't know how to do that. Not truthfully, but something in his gaze made lying feel useless. So she told him small truths that she read at night when she couldn't sleep. She kept a tiny herb plant alive on her windowsill, that she dreamed quietly, stupidly, of opening a bakery someday. A warm place. A place where hungry kids could eat without being watched like a problem. He listened like it mattered. When her shift ended, he walked her outside. The cold air bit. Elena's old Toyota sat like an apology beside his black car. "Thank you," Elena said, clutching coat and gloves to her chest. He stepped closer, lifted his hand, and brushed a strand of hair behind her ear with a touch so light it burned. For a breath, he leaned in and stopped, restrained tight in his jaw. "I will see you again, Elena," he murmured. Then he stepped back, got in his car, and disappeared into the street. 3 days later, Elena's phone buzzed. Unknown number, one line. "Ready in 10 minutes." Elena didn't have time to talk herself out of it. She washed her face, pulled on a clean dress, and slid the leather gloves onto her hands. A black car waited outside. Elena climbed in. He was there, Adriano Moretti, softer than that storm night, but still unmistakable. His eyes found her hands, and something warm flickered. "You came," he said, and Elena heard relief in it. "You texted," she replied, breathless. He took her to the top of a quiet building where Manhattan spread beneath them in lights and water. Wind curled around the deck. They talked about nothing dramatic, just the kind of truths people don't share with strangers. He told her his wife had died 4 years ago, a quiet grief he carried like a stone. He told her Mia was afraid of thunder now, and he didn't know how to fix it. Elena told him about being left at a hospital, about moving through homes like luggage, about Mrs. O'Leary choosing her anyway. Adriano didn't interrupt. He just held her hand when her voice shook. When Elena mentioned the bakery again, he looked at her as if he was seeing a map. "You will do it," he said. "I believe you." Strangely, she believed him too. As the weeks went on, the city started to feel different to Elena. Not safer Manhattan was still Manhattan, but watched. Sometimes she'd catch a black SUV across the street when she opened the diner. Sometimes, when she took out trash at night, she'd notice a man in a dark coat leaning on the corner like he'd been there the whole time. No one bothered her. No one spoke. They were simply present. The first time Elena asked Adriano about it, he didn't deny it. "I won't leave you unprotected," he said, as if it was as obvious as locking a door. "Not after what happened to Mia. Not after you." Elena hated that part at first, the idea that danger could spill over onto her life. But she couldn't ignore what she'd seen on that storm night. Whoever had followed Mia hadn't been a misunderstanding. It had been a hunt. One late afternoon, the diner filled with the soft clatter of dishes and the smell of grilled onions. Elena was refilling ketchup bottles when 2 men walked in, both in dark jackets, both too clean for the neighborhood, eyes scanning instead of settling. They didn't sit. They didn't order. They stood near the door for 10 seconds, long enough to look Elena over, then walked out without a word. Frank noticed. His mouth tightened. "That's the second time," he murmured when the door shut. Elena's skin went cold. "Second time?" Frank nodded once. "They came in yesterday." Same look, same vibe. Elena's hands tightened around the ketchup bottle. She forced her breathing steady and finished her shift like she hadn't noticed any. She didn't want to alarm Frank. She didn't want to alarm herself. But that night, when she got home, the hallway light on her floor flickered like it always did, and the lock on her door felt suddenly flimsy. Her phone buzzed. A message from Adriano, short and direct. "Are you okay?" Elena stared at the screen. She hadn't told him. She typed back, "Yes." "How did you know to ask?" 3 dots appeared. Then his reply came, "Because I know when eyes are on you." A minute later, another message. "I'm coming." Elena's heart kicked. She hadn't asked him to, but there was something inside her that loosened with relief anyway. Adriano arrived 20 minutes later. No convoy, just one car. He stood in her tiny apartment like a man stepping into a world he couldn't buy. And for the first time, Elena saw how carefully he watched his surroundings, not nervous, just precise. He looked at the peeling paint, the narrow kitchen, the single chair that wobbled if you leaned too far. He didn't judge it. He only looked back at her. "Tell me what happened," he said. Elena explained the two men at the diner, the way they watched, the way they left. She tried to keep it light, like it wasn't a big deal. Adriano's face turned hard in a way Elena recognized from the storm night, an edge of cold that didn't belong in normal rooms. He walked to the window and looked down at the street as if he could see through building. Then he said, very quietly, "It won't happen again." Elena stepped closer, voice tight. "Adriano, I don't want you to do something reckless because of me." He looked at her, and the hardness shifted. "I'm not reckless," he said. "I'm responsible." The word surprised her. He came back to her, close enough that Elena could feel his body heat. "You didn't ask to be pulled into this," he said. "But you are in it now because you chose kindness on a night most people would have locked their door." Elena's throat tightened. "I don't want to be a reason people get hurt." Adriano's gaze held hers. "You are not the reason," he said. "You are the reason I remember there's something worth protecting that isn't power." Something in Elena's chest cracked. She reached up and touched his cheek careful, like she was still learning she was allowed. Adriano closed his eyes for 1 second under her hand, as if it steadied him. That night, he didn't press her. He didn't try to rush the shape of what was growing between them. He made tea in her tiny kitchen like a man trying to learn normal life, and they sat on her worn couch listening to the city breathe through the window. Before he left, he placed a small object on her table, a simple silver key. "Elena," he said, voice low, "this is for the townhouse on Grove Street. Not the big estate, the quiet place. If you ever feel unsafe, you go there. No question. Rosa will be there. Mia will be there. I will be there." Elena stared at the key like it was a symbol of something she didn't know how to hold. "You're giving me a door," she whispered. Adriano's mouth curved faintly. "You gave me one first." After that, Elena started spending weekends at the Grove Street townhouse. It wasn't a palace. It was warm bookshelves, a kitchen that smelled like garlic and rosemary, soft lamps in the corners. Rosa moved through it like the house was an old friend, and Mia treated it like a safe net. Mia would drag Elena to the dining table with sketchbooks spread everywhere. "Look," she'd say, shoving drawings at Elena like gifts. Pictures of a storm, a diner, a big man kneeling on a tile floor, a woman in an apron holding a mug with marshmallows floating on top. "You drew me?" Elena asked once, stunned. Mia nodded solemnly. "So I don't forget. So I remember you're real." Elena had to turn her head so Mia wouldn't see her eyes fill. Baking became their language. Elena taught Mia cookies first, because cookies were forgiving. Mia sprinkled flour on her own nose by accident and giggled so hard she fell against his hip. Adriano watched from the doorway, arms crossed, expression unreadable, until Elena caught the small, helpless curve of his mouth. "She laughs again," Rosa whispered one evening, voice thick. "It's been years, Elena." Elena looked at Mia, hair messy with flour, cheeks flushed with happiness, and felt something deep in her chest settle into place. Not romance, not fantasy, something older, belonging. Adriano didn't only show Elena beauty, he also showed her the truth of his world in small, controlled pieces, not stories that glorified it, facts he couldn't change. One night, they sat at the townhouse kitchen table after Mia fell asleep on the couch. The city outside was quiet for once, rain tapping gently at the windows. Adriano opened his sketchbook again, but this time he didn't hand it to Elena. He stared at one particular drawing, two hands holding a rose, and his voice dropped. "People think power is freedom," he said. "It isn't. It's obligation. It's being watched. It's knowing your enemies don't need to hurt you, they only need to reach who you love." Elena's fingers curled around her mug. "Is that why your wife," she started, then stopped, afraid of stepping on grief. Adriano's eyes went distant. "Isabella was not killed," he said softly. "She was sick, a heart condition she hid from me, because she believed worrying me would make it worse." He swallowed hard. "I built a fortress around her, and it didn't matter. You can't bribe a body to keep living." Elena reached across the table and covered his hand. Adriano didn't pull away. "I don't want to lose anyone else," he admitted, voice low. "Not Mia, not." He stopped, jaw tight, as if saying Elena's name in that sentence felt like handing someone a weapon. Elena's heart beat once, hard. "Not me," she finished quietly. Adriano looked at her, eyes fierce and honest. "Not you." The bakery dream stopped being a secret between Elena and her own loneliness. Adriano didn't hand her cash and call it charity. He treated it like a plan. He brought her a notebook one afternoon, plain, clean pages, and slid it across the table. "Write it," he said. "Your menu, your name, your hours, your cost, your rules." Elena blinked. "I don't know how to do that." "You will learn." Adriano said, steady. I will help you learn, not by doing it for you, by making you build it. So Elena did. She rode late into the night while Mia colored beside her. She researched rents and permits and equipment. She argued with herself about whether it was arrogant to dream so loud. Adriano didn't flatter her. He asked hard questions. How many loaves a day? What will you charge? What will you give away? How will you keep it from becoming a burden? Elena realized something. He wasn't just powerful. He was disciplined. He knew how to build things that lasted. And he wanted her to build something that belonged to her. That discipline showed in the way he loved too. There were nights Elena expected him to push, to claim, to prove something. Instead, he slowed down. He waited. He asked. He treated Elena's boundaries like they mattered, as if they were part of the structure of trust. One night on the townhouse rooftop, wind curling around them, Elena finally turned to him and said, "Why are you so careful with me?" Adriano's jaw tightened. Because, he said, voice low, I've taken enough in my life by force. I won't take you that way. Elena's eyes stuck. She nodded once, unable to speak. Adriano brushed his knuckles along her cheek. When you choose me, he murmured, I want it to be clean. Yours. Elena leaned in and kissed him first. It wasn't a gentle test. It was a full decision, years of loneliness and hunger for safety breaking open into one honest act. Adriano's hand slid to the back of her neck, steady and warm, and he kissed her back like restraint had been a muscle he'd trained his whole life, and now he was finally allowing it to relax. When they pulled apart, their foreheads touched. Are you sure? He asked. Elena breathed out a laugh that sounded like relief. Yes, she said. I'm sure. Not long after, Matteo stopped pretending he didn't care. It happened on a Sunday afternoon at the estate. Mia was in the garden chasing the dog. Rosa insisted wasn't allowed in the kitchen. Elena stood at the counter kneading dough while Adriano sliced garlic with calm precision. Matteo walked in, watched for a moment, then said flatly, You're doing it wrong. Elena glared. Excuse me. Matteo reached for the dough bowl and turned it slightly. You're pushing too hard. You're tearing it. You need patience. Elena blinked. Do you bake? Matteo shrugged like the word bake was embarrassing. My mother did. I watched. Adriano's mouth curved. He watched so much he learned. He said, voice amused. Matteo's ears went pink. I'm not here to chat, he muttered. Then he glanced at Elena, expression finally honest. You're good for them, he said. For me, for my brother. Elena's throat tightened. Thank you, she managed. Matteo nodded once, satisfied, then walked out like he hadn't just said something that mattered. Weeks passed. Elena still worked at the diner. Not because she had to, she still did, but because it was the only stable place she'd ever had. Frank, the regulars, the rhythm. Adriano didn't push her to change. He didn't try to dress her up into someone else. He brought her into his life in Peace's family dinners at his estate where his housekeeper, Rosa, greeted Elena with the calm warmth of someone who'd been waiting. Afternoon museum walks with empty galleries, late night rooftop conversations over the city. Mia became the bright center. She called Elena Nina at first, then Elena, then one day, shyly, can I call you my bonus MOM? And Elena laughed through tears and told her yes, any name that felt safe. One morning, Elena opened her mailbox and saw another hospital envelope. Her hands shook as she tore it open, but it wasn't a demand. It was a notice. Your balance has been paid in full. Your account now shows 0. Elena read it 3 times. Then she knew. She went to Adriano's estate that afternoon without warning. She didn't wait for a car. She took a taxi with tip money. Adriano was in his office. Papers spread across his desk like maps. He stood when he saw her, a smile starting then fading when he saw her face. Elena, he said carefully, what happened? She held up the letter. You paid it. Adriano's expression didn't change. Yes. Elena's voice shook. Why? I didn't ask you to. I'm not. She stopped. The pride and fear tangled. I don't want to be saved. Adriano stepped closer. You were not being saved, he said quietly. You were being freed. Elena blinked, tears building. You carried a debt that wasn't yours, he continued. You worked yourself thin. You honored the woman who raised you by paying her final bills like they were your burden alone. He lifted his hand and wiped a tear from Elena's cheek with gentle certainty. She deserved to leave without leaving chains on you, he said. And you deserve to breathe. Something broke in Elena, then not pride, not anger, something softer and older. She fell into his arms and cried like she hadn't allowed herself to cry in years. Adriano held her, one hand moving slowly along her back, grounding her. I am not buying you, he murmured into her hair. I am trying to give you room to live. In the doorway, someone watched. A man in his early 30s with the same dark eyes as Adriano. but sharper.
His brother, Matteo? Elena had met him once, polite, guarded, scanning her like a threat. Now, watching Elena cry in Adriano's arms, Matteo's expression shifted. He didn't smile, but the suspicion in him softened into something else. Rosa stood behind him, wiping her eyes.
She is real, Matteo said quietly.
Rosa nodded. I told you, before the proposal. There was one more moment that sealed it for Elena. A storm rolled in again, nothing like that first night, but enough thunder to make Mia wake up shaking.
Elena found her curled under a blanket in the hallway outside Adriano's bedroom, trying to be brave and failing. Adriano stood over her, helpless in a way Elena rarely saw, his hands half raised like he didn't know whether to soothe or to command the fear away. Elena sat on the floor with Mia and opened her arms. Mia crawled into them immediately. Elena rocked her slowly and whispered steady, ordinary facts. It's just sound. It can't come inside.
We're warm. You're safe.
She guided Mia's breathing until the shaking eased. Adriano watched, throat working, then allowed himself beside them, careful, like he was entering a sacred space.
Mia reached one hand toward him without looking, and Adriano took it, holding on like he was learning a language he'd never been taught. When Mia finally fell asleep against Elena's shoulder, Adriano whispered, You fix what I can't. Elena shook her head.
I don't fix her, she whispered back. I just stay.
Adriano's eyes shone in the low light.
That's the rarest thing, he said. Staying. A month later, Adriano took Elena somewhere he didn't take anyone.
An old family estate upstate.
Not the Manhattan Power version of his life, the private, tender root of it. Behind the house was a rose garden that felt endless.
Thousands of roses in every color, scent thick and sweet in the late sun. My mother planted this, Adriano said, voice softened by memory. One rose at a time. She believed roses were prayers. Elena walked between the rows, breath catching at the beauty.
Adriano led her to a corner where only white roses bloomed, luminous in golden light.
This was her favorite place, he said. She said white roses meant new beginnings. Elena bent to breathe one in, eyes closing.
Behind her, Adriano's voice changed.
Now,
unsteady.
My mother would have loved you, he said.
I know it. Elena turned. Adriano was on one knee.
In his hand, a small velvet box opened to reveal a ring, not a blinding diamond.
An oval emerald, green as Elena's eyes, framed by small diamonds that caught the sunset. Elena's breath left her body in a rush. Adriano looked up at her, and for the first time since she'd known him, she saw him nervous.
Elena Reyes, he said, voice trembling. I lived most of my life believing love was a weakness. I built my world on control because it was the only way to survive it. He swallowed once. Then a storm came, he continued, and a waitress in a small diner picked up my daughter and wrapped her in the warmest coat she owned. You spoke to me on the phone like I was human, not a name people fear. And you brought my child back from the edge of the dark. Tears slid down Elena's cheeks. She didn't wipe them. You are not a princess in a tower, Adriano said, voice rough.
You are tired after long shifts.
Your shoes are worn. Your hands are rough. And you still chose kindness.
You still chose to protect what wasn't yours. You lifted the ring slightly. You brought laughter back into my home, he said. You brought Mia back to herself. And you brought my heart back to life. His eyes held hers, fierce and vulnerable at once. My life is not simple, he said. There are shadows, but I swear this. I will protect you.
I will honor you.
I will spend the rest of my days making a home around you. He breathed in, like gathering every ounce of courage.
Will you be my wife? Elena didn't answer with a speech. She dropped to her knees in the grass among the white roses and covered his hands with hers, crying and laughing at the same time.
Yes, she whispered.
Yes, 1,000 times yes. Adriano's hands shook as he slid the ring onto her finger.
Then he pulled her into his arms and kissed her under the dying light.
A shriek exploded behind them.
Did she say yes? Mia came sprinting toward them, curls flying, Rosa following with a hand over her mouth, and Matteo behind them trying and failing to look annoyed. Mia threw her arms around both of them and sobbed, happy tears. I'm going to have a MOM again, she whispered into Elena's shoulder. Elena held her tight.
Forever, she promised. I'm not going anywhere. The wedding happened a month later in the same rose garden.
Elena refused a spectacle.
No reporters. No 100 guest show. She wanted warmth.
She wanted real. Adriano agreed without hesitation.
White ribbons and tiny candles turned the garden into a constellation. Rosa wore deep blue and cried before the music even started.
Matteo stood beside Adriano as best man, expression soft in a way Elena didn't know was possible. Frank sat in the front row in his diners and cried openly like he didn't care who saw.
Mia wore a blush pink dress, curls tied with a white bow, and held the flower basket like it was a sacred job. When the music began, Elena walked in alone until Mia ran to her and slipped a small hand into hers. "Can I walk Emma down?" Mia asked, voice trembling with happiness. Elena nodded, swallowing a sob. They walked together on a carpet of rose petals toward the man waiting at the end of the aisle. Adriano's face broke open when he saw her. Tears slid down the cheeks of the man everyone feared, not from weakness, from fullness. They spoke vows that were simple and true promises of protection, of honesty, of home. When they were declared husband and wife, Adriano kissed Elena like he'd been waiting his whole life for permission to stop holding back. Laughter and food and stories filled the night. Rosa cooked family recipes. Frank hugged Elena so hard she could barely breathe and whispered, "You deserve this." Mia danced until she nearly collapsed from joy, dragging Elena and Adriano into the circle again and again. Later, when the garden finally quieted and the candles burned low, Elena and Adriano stood on the balcony overlooking the roses. The night air smelled sweet and cool. "Do you regret it?" Adriano asked, voice soft. Stepping into my world, Elena looked up at him, emerald ring-catching moonlight. "Not for a second," she said. "I lived most of my life alone. Then a little girl showed up in a store, and everything changed." She touched his cheek gently. "You gave me a family," she said. "You gave me a home. I don't regret it." "Not ever." Adriano kissed her under the moon, and for the first time in Elena's life, the future didn't feel like something to survive. It felt like something to live. And it all began with one small choice: the courage to open a door in the rain.